Next speaker is Juergen Liebermann. Dr. Liebermann is certified as a high complexity clinical laboratory director through the American Board of Bioanalysis. He has been working in the field of IVF since 1995. He is the director of Fertility Center of Illinois, CFI, overseeing embryology, andrology, and endocrinology labs. Dr. Liebermann has been frequently invited as a speaker in multiple national and international meetings, and he is co-authored for multiple chapters, 15 books total, in reproductive science. Juergen, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Okay. Can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for inviting me, Nabil. It's a pleasure to be here with this exciting panel of experienced embryologists and also good friends. In the next 30 minutes, I will not talk about outcome, ICSI, freezing. I will talk about something what I personally experienced over my many years of being a lab director, how to create a positive culture in an IVF lab. And this is personally for me so important to also to be successful. My next slide, please. Next slide, please. So we're living in a time of fact checks. So I want to do also some facts here. There is more to be done, and we have fewer members on our teams to get these things done. Just think about since the introduction of egg freezing and PGD. Generation of embryologists change jobs more frequently, leaving us in a constant retraining mode. And we're wondering how to clear all these leadership hurdles to get things done. We are in a need of communication skill, but break down obstacles to improve team member performance. We have to coach underachievers to make them more successful, and we have to turn good embryologists into superstars. Next slide, please. For most of you, I'm sure you experience pretty much the same what this slide is showing. For an IVF lab, the way to achieve an excellent outcome is like an evolutionary process. Next slide, please. Our jobs requires multitask abilities. It asks for very special skills, proficiency, and competency. Only stronger, more effective leadership will turn staff accountability and responsibility in a positive for everyone on your team. Next slide, please. You know, if you ask people like 20 years ago how we're doing, they would say, good. 10 years ago, they say, okay. But now everyone will respond, I'm busy. And we made a sport of talking about how busy we are. Next slide, please. Take the steps you need to develop a positive culture for your team. It starts with ownership. The next step would be how you can navigate your priorities effectively. And finally, how you can improve staff's accountability. Next slide. How to get more from your team and better bottom line results. You have to develop an engagement. People have to develop passion and forward thinking. You have to produce positive results. You have to gain trust, respect, and commitment. Next slide. How to inspire commitment, productivity, enthusiasm, teamwork, and cooperation. Next slide. You have to create and define values. For example, integrity, excellence, teamwork, patient as well as employee focus. You have to lead and inspire. You have to believe and respect, live and enjoy. Next slide. Being an effective leader. You have to know the crucial difference between managing and leading. Leaders are people who do the right things. Managers are people who do things right. Develop your sense of purpose. Show courage. Use candor. Limit yourself, empowering employees to tap their own personal strengths. Recognize the reason for employees' mistakes as well as frustration. Have a plan for each employee's continuous development. And remember, leaders are not made, they are made, not born. Be yourself, recognize your strengths as well as limitations. Next slide. Improving your listening skill and doubling your effectiveness. Your staff want direction, meaning, trust and hope. Sometimes that means the courage to be extremely unpopular. Say what you really think will encourage the people you lead to do the same. Creating an atmosphere where employees take ownership of their work. Reward success. Encourage employees to embrace accountability. Getting employee buy-in and commitment to goals, achievements, and expectations. Next slide. A simple, elegant list of 8 management practices that a good manager does. Be a good coach. Empower your team and don't micromanage. Express interest in team member success as well as personal well-being. Be productive and result-oriented. Be a good communicator and listen to your team. Help your team members with career development. Have a clear vision and strategy for the team. And very important, have key technical skills. Next slide. When a leader takes responsibility for his own action and mistakes, he not only sets a good example, he shows a healthy respect for people on his team. Reference to Coach K. Next slide. Micromanagement makes best people quit. Steve Jobs. Next slide. 6 things your team will hate. Surprises, unfairness, unclear goals, policy disconnected, empty talks, and isolated leader. Next slide, please. 3 good habits will lead to great results. You have to know when you turn away opportunities, balance short and long-term goals, and controlling what you can control. Above all and most important, develop sound behavior. Next slide. Again, reference to a famous basketball coach. Make sure that team members know they are working with you, not for you. Next slide. A case study done at University of Missouri on patient experience and employee satisfaction has one very important key takeaway, that patient satisfaction is directly related to employer workplace satisfaction. Next slide. Use Disney secrets. Innovation, it's a secret behind successful companies. Harness for a truly patient-centric organization. Create magical moments that win and keep customers for life. Ignite fresh ideas and innovation throughout your organization. Inspire your employees, build loyalty, and reduce turnover. Next slide. What about dealing with toxic employees? Eliminating bad behavior. Don't underestimate the damage one toxic employee can do. Diffuse the behavior before it spreads. For example, one negative employee can cut a team's performance by about 20 to 40%. Raise tension, drama, hostility, a backstabbing shot at a meeting, the promise not kept, withheld information. Next slide. Stop the pessimism. How to overcome negative vibes among your staff. Next slide. There are 4 don'ts. Don't shower negativists with lots of attention. Don't stop asking them to pitch in. Don't correct them less often. Don't allow employees to get bored. Next slide. 4 yes, 5 yes. Communicate, back please one. Communicate in a positive professional manner, no matter what's the situation. Peacefully resolve conflicts. Be able to deliver bad news. Work with even the most difficult people and carry out essential supervisory roles and functions. Next slide. So only 3 things that are really important is choose the right people, allocate the right number of dollars, and transmit your ideas with the speed of light. Next slide. So key points. Putting together a team that gets results. Hire the right people, team versus work group. The ideal mix, building a highly motivated, high performance team, especially create a dream team. Inspiring others to reach high and succeed. Reward your team members, plan for improving performance, eliminate team conflicts, plan for helping the team to accept changes, and building a blueprint for you and your team. Polish your leadership skill, stop reverse delegation, recognize when your team is really overworked, get your team to buy into the company's goals, and the surprising disadvantage of focusing strictly on results. Meeting that trigger action. Prevent one strong personality from dominating, coax non-talkers to participate in meetings, ensure meetings are necessary, focused, productive, and getting the real results. Becoming a team leader famous for results. It's the onion patch strategy, getting the higher ups to stand behind you. Regain control quickly when you have been away from work. Sell your team on itself to build real pride and professionalism. Next slide. Building a solid defense against stress and pressure. Discover why working longer and harder doesn't necessarily make you more productive. Determining your top 10 stressors. Brainstorming on how you eliminate or reduce them. Your life outside of work. Do you have one? Getting organized is vital to decreasing stress and can ward off insanity, shorten your workday, get you out in the fresh air, develop a healthy balance, and improve your quality of life. Next slide. But keep in mind the take-home message for leaders. Get the work out. Having a basic work plan, set goals and assess productivity, make job assignments, use listening skills, and delegate effectively. Create a positive environment. Getting the most out of a diverse work team, help your coworkers see meaning on what they do, respect their contribution and support their goals and development, practice first-rate effectiveness in communication style and skill, deal with negative attitude, making your team feel valued for you and the organization. Handle performance problems. Holding coworkers accountable for their performance, giving feedback that encourage coworkers to achieve their best, cultural absenteeism and tardiness, taking legal disciplinary action when needed, disciplining and correcting problem behaviors. Last but not least, get your coworkers believe in the organization and view it as more than just a place to work. Solve tough people problems, and stimulating others to do their share. Communicate with tact, professionalism, diplomacy, finesse to pursue and influence. Build your credibility and influence to become a confident, active leader who earns respect. Develop your own personal strength. Keep in mind your soft skills is the #1 driver for better results. Next slide, please. Don't worry about losing. Thinking about winning. Again, Coach K. For you as being a good leader, culture positive characteristics in your own personality, maintain credibility, be a strong mentor. Escape the complexity trap and get to work that matters. Simple wins. Next slide. It's a no-brainer. The more talent, engaged, and productive your team is, as more successful you will be in your environment. Next slide. Simplification is important. It is not a buzzword. It simply needs to become our way of working. Next slide. Simplicity is the opposite of complexity and is defined by 4 elements: as minimal as possible, as understandable as possible, as repeatable as possible, and as accessible as possible. Next slide. And some characteristics of a simplifier. Courage. You are not afraid of challenges and comfortable with changes and the unknown. Minimalist sensibility. knowing the value of less, approach everything you do by asking, is this the simplest way to do this, and are we still reaching our goal? Result orientation, you consider simplicity because you want to get things done. Focus, don't give up, don't get business as usual in a way of simplifying things over the long term. Personal engagement, you walk away, actively seek ways to simplify, and you do it while empowering others to do the same. Next slide. Steve Jobs, that means one of my mantras, focus and simplicity. Simple can be harder than complex. You have to work hard to get your thinking clean, to make it simple. But it's worth in the end because once you get there, you can move mountains. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Next slide. Thank you very much, and I will be happy to answer questions later on.